Hello and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Today we are recreating another mission, and that mission is going to be Voyager 1. Voyager 1 was an unmanned space probe launched in 1977 with the goal of visiting the outer planets. There were two of them launched. Voyager 1 visited Jupiter and Saturn. Voyager 2 visited Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. The reason that Voyager 1 couldn't visit the two other outer planets after Saturn is because when it passed Saturn, it actually launched it up at an angle perpendicular to where the plane where the planets usually orbit. So it would have taken way too much fuel to actually correct this and go visit the other planets, and the scientists just decided to go with it. And what makes Voyager 1 special is this orbit that shot it up launched it so fast that it passed one of the Mariner spacecrafts and became the furthest man-made object. And it's going to leave the sun's orbit, we know that much. We don't know exactly when, because, well, obviously we've never been out there before. But hopefully from Voyager we can learn about what the edge of the solar system is. But, recreating this in Kerbal presents a few problems. One, we only have one gas giant, and two, you can't exactly leave the solar system. But I gave it my best shot. I'm only going to be visiting Jewel in this episode. I thought about using HyperEdit to move Eve out there and pretending it was Saturn, or something like that, but HyperEdit is, sketchy sometimes. I'll just leave it at that. So I visited Jewel, and I also visited its moon Tylo, I think, which is supposed to look like Titan, which is one of the moons of Saturn. Or it looks somewhat like Titan, which is the moon of Saturn, and that way I can pretend that I've been to, Jupiter and Saturn. So we're setting up. This is the first time in Kerbal Space Program that I have used the transfer window properly. So be proud of me. Though, going out to Jewel, it's very hard to get your orbit because literally rolling your spacecraft launches you miles off course, especially with something as heavy as this upper stage. You might have noticed that the actual rocket looked almost identical, well, actually it did look identical to the rocket I used to launch Titan, except for this engine. And the actual rocket, I think they had the exact same engine, but for this mission I needed a more efficient engine to get it into space, just because how it worked out with weight. I actually had trouble finding how big the Voyager probe was relative to the rocket, because you can find pictures of the rocket or you can find pictures of the probe, but there's none of them next to each other. So I did my best. I kind of guessed on this a little bit of upper staging here, but what I was doing here, actually, I forgot to mention, I set up in the orbit, and because I was going to run out of fuel, I decided to start burning really early, which was a mistake because it launched me down into the atmosphere. Luckily, it didn't actually affect my course much. It messed up the maneuver node a little because I was burned at the wrong time. But, it's recoverable, and I actually get an intercept, kind of an intercept with Jewel. In the area of Jewel intercept. I think, yes, when I was launching this, I forgot. Jewel's actually on a inclined orbit relative to Kerbin. I was going straight at it, like if you were going to a Jewel or the moon. I accidentally overburned there. So, when I get there, I actually have trouble because, or, not when I get there, that's the main reason why, the maneuver node's so glitchy, is because I'm coming in beneath Jewel. And actually, eventually I figure it out and I move the orbit up and get a good intercept with Jewel. But here we're unfolding all of the parts of my nice Voyager probe. I'm actually really proud of this. It looks pretty close, I guess. Almost identical. But there, that little light that's supposed to resemble the camera. And with Distant Object Enhancer, interplanetary missions are very fun, because you can see all the planets moving around the sun there. And then, eventually, I look at Jewel, and I use that to find out why I'm missing, because, like I said, I forgot it was in an inclined orbit. You can kind of see little specks there that are the moons of Jool orbiting. And if you notice, we're actually moving down and to the right of it. So I decided to use a maneuver node and turn it and see if I can get us closer. Turning on infinite fuel, because obviously it's hard to put fuel on this little craft, and also I think the Voyager engines had really good delta V, because, or not delta V, ISP, because yeah, the burns I had to do in this would have required very efficient engines, which I did not have. So time accelerating again, and this time I just forget the maneuver node and go for it and move it the direction that I was going away from it. And after a lot of burning, I get an intercept with Tylo, and we go ahead and time accelerate to Jool. Yes, distant object enhancer makes this a lot prettier. And also, it's always fun to see the planet zooming towards you. But we come in a bit of a texture glitch on Jool. That's because of the better atmospheres, I think. But you might also see that it looks a little different, a bit more like Jupiter, which I actually kind of like. Just need to work on those little glitches. But we have to do another burn here to get us closer to Tylo, or actually, let's just call it Titan. Imagine we are now at Saturn, time accelerating forward to Saturn, and we are going to visit its moon, Titan. I wasn't very efficient with this burn. I did it very late. I actually didn't decide I was going to do it until I got there. But what I decided to do finally is actually shoot myself under Tylo so that it would shoot me up into a similar orbit as the actual Viking craft. Because like I said, it shoots it up at a perpendicular angle to the orbital plane, and here you can see when I leave Jool, I'm going to be shooting way up, and I'm actually going to see if I can get it to an exit or an escape trajectory from the sun. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to have to do a little bit of extra burning to get out of the sun's orbit, but I'm going to have to do that a little bit closer to Tylo, because I've already got about as close to the surface as I can, and there isn't much I can do about accelerating. So I add a maneuver node at the periaps, and speed it up to get out of the sun's orbit, which actually takes a lot more delta V than I thought. But let's go ahead, flip around, and get ready to do this burn. And let's go! Yes, these engines have like no thrust, and I don't think their ISP is that great anyway. So I didn't even bother to put fuel on this craft. I just used infinite fuel. I know it's cheating, but on these big, long missions, it's very hard to make the craft look good without, and also make it function. Just because there's differences between, you know, real life and Kerbal Space Program. But our orbit is way up there. This is probably the furthest I've ever launched a space probe, semi-authentically, flying over the South Pole there. You can see as the camera spins around. That's our thermal generator. And interesting thing about that, that's actually what Voyager uses, but it's probably it's not probably, its generator is actually almost depleted, so they're shutting down all of this electric using equipment, electric charge using. And they're trying to save as much power as they can, but it's probably still not going to last long enough that it'll actually be able to talk to us by the time it leaves. So it's kind of sad. We're not going to be able to find out much about what it's like past the Oort cloud and all of that, but hopefully by then we'll have a lot faster space probes, warp engines, or something. I'm Con Happy. Thanks for watching.